Good evening, everybody, or good afternoon. I hope we can hear me. All right. Can you kindly send the links again? Sorry about the other time. We're starting the main event now for about 30 minutes before we have the post event. Can you all hear me? All right. Good evening. Good afternoon. We'll be starting now. All right. We'll be starting now. Kindly share the link again. All right. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, according to your time zone. Welcome to the Climate Action and Education Forum 2023 by the May Foundation. And tonight or this afternoon, we are supposed to have a guest speaker, Ms. Temilade Salama, founder of Untitled Champions. But as a result of some issues, she will not be joining us because she's currently in the hospital, so she will not be joining us, but the forum will still continue. So I welcome everyone again, once again, to this forum. We've had the pre-event a few minutes ago. After now, we're going to have the post-event, and it's a discussion. It's not just a TED talk, it's a discussion, so we can throw our questions, we can share our ideas, our interests. And there's also a link to share your questions to be sent across in the chat box. All right, let's start with what we have this afternoon or this evening. So the theme for the Climate Action and Education Forum is climate education and its inclusion in the basic educational foundation. Climate education and its inclusion in the basic educational foundation. I'm sure even before this event, I'm sure we might have heard a lot about climate education, climate action, and all of that. But I'll just briefly explain again before we move further but what climate change is. So climate change is the change in the weather pattern, the change in the long-term shifts in the weather pattern, just like the change in temperature when the weather is being forecasted and you come to the day and it's another result. That's the example of climate change. But recently, since the 1800, that's the pre-industrial era. Before the pre-industrial era, it has been known that the solar cycle, that's how the Earth is turning around the sun, definitely cause climate change. But recently, from the 19th century down to the 21st century, human activities has been the major cause of climate change. Human activities has been the one spurring it at a faster rate. So from burning of fossil fuel, generating greenhouse gases, down to now we have different kind of greenhouse gases, from carbon dioxide to methane to nitrous oxide, a lot of greenhouse gases, all from our activities, eating up the Earth, trapping in the atmosphere where sun heats it up and raising the temperature of of the earth. Now, just like I mentioned, the example of greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane. Now, this comes from majorly the gasolines we drive, that's in our cars. That's why electric cars have been on a high note, or it has been common as a solution to our transportation. So all this comes from the gasoline we use in our cars, the train. Now we can see some electric trains and the street cars, the trams. So from our transportation majorly, then to our agricultural sector, just like one of the speaker a few minutes ago discussed about, and to our wastes, very major, our wastes, our plastic waste, our food waste. All of this is what is causing these climate changes. Every of our activities daily is what is causing all of these climate changes. Now, and our theme is climate education and its inclusion into the basic educational foundation. So that's like how we can bring it into the school system, how we can bring it into our everyday learning about climate, how we can reduce all of these effects, how we can take actions. So that's what our theme for the forum is this day. All right, I'll quickly run through. I have a note which will further be shared to our emails for us to go through it. So climate change affects almost every aspect of our lives, from health to our food, to housing, to safety, to work, to even education. Climate change affects everything. Now, some of us are more vulnerable to climate impacts, such as people living on small islands. Small islands, they are practically almost islands in, they also those countries that are near the sea areas. So most of the people that are battling with the worst effect of climate change are those countries that are island countries and the developing countries like Nigeria. They battle a lot with flooding. Some countries that are landlocked battle with droughts, with famine, all and the research made note that Africa make at as low as 3% emission, but they are still suffering all of these causes. They make at least 3%, but they are still suffering because they are the developing countries and the underdeveloped countries. So this forum is spoiling us because it's going beyond this Zoom meeting. We're going to inform others, get others involved, speak up, advocate, get our government involved to include all of this into the educational system. All right. So the idea of climate education spurred, like it rang out during COP27, that was last year in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, where we had the first ever climate education hub, where a lot of investors and educators came together to discuss how climate education can be included in the educational sector. And not just the educational sector, but every aspect of learning, because learning now has gone beyond classroom. You can learn on Instagram, you can learn on YouTube, you can learn on TikTok. So learning has gone very wild, not just classroom. You can learn by just watching the news. All right, so what is climate education? So climate education is the foundation for building the green economy. From COP27 last year, it was discussed that climate education is the key, like one of the foundation, like the roots. If you want to take actions to solve climate change, it's one of the roots, because if we keep shouting climate change, climate actions, I want to get the government involved, get youth involved. The governments are already adults, they are going already. the youths, they will also move into the adult stage. But the children, they are the next generation, they are the younger generation that want to come after us. So this climate education is to be included in the educational system, like the basic from the crèche, that's according to UK system, from the crèche to the primary level, to the secondary, which is high school in the US, in North America. So from the crèche to the primary school, to secondary school, to high school, before even getting to the college or university, climate change needs to be included in the educational sector. So climate education is the foundation for building green economy and solving the climate crisis, from educating students, investors, and regulators to creating a generation of entrepreneurs and inventors. So as we take this climate education into the classroom, it does not just stop at getting them involved and getting them informed. They will also, when they see that it's affecting every of our daily life, you see a lot of climate entrepreneurs and climate inventors will spur, even at a very little tender age 5 to 12. You see some of them coming out with ideas to solve climate issues. You see some of them inventing devices, inventing machines to solve climate issues. I'll share some of the ideas that have started popping up. This was shared by Sophia Piani like a few days ago. Sophia Piani is like the youngest climate advisor to the UN General Secretary. All right, so the first global study of climate anxiety among children and young people found that 59% of respondents were extremely worried about climate change and climate crisis, how it affects us. 59% of children and young people are extremely anxious, worried, because when the older generation are gone, they are the next one, they are the next people to come. And 10 years from now, if we don't take actions, it's going to be worse than the current situation we are seeing right now. Flooding in Pakistan, drought and famine in Kenya, in Ethiopia. 10 years from now, if we don't take right actions and right innovations, it will be worse from now. That's why we have the COP, the Conference of Parties, COP27, COP28 now will be holding in December in Dubai. So that's why we hold all of these conferences. World leaders, the head of states, educators, everyone come together to discuss how we can cut the emission by 50% before 2050 and reduce it to an extent by 2030. All right, so 84% were less worried, 50% reported feel sad, anxious, angry, and powerless. So you see the figure and the analysis is very high, 59%, 84%, 50%. So the younger generations are worried about these happenings, about this climate crisis, that if we don't take actions now, if we don't get the younger generation involved now, a few years from now, the worst effects will be much more than what we see right now. All right, young now, a study also from TikTok. Now, like I mentioned earlier, it's not just limited to the classroom, and now that online learning, social media learning is on a very wide scale. Young people are more interconnected and aware of the world than any previous generation. They are more aware and interconnected. I think I went off everything for that was like last year. I went off social media and everything for like a month, and I was like in almost every continent. I was in meetings, and you see, social media and the internet has made it very, I can be in UK and you think I'm in Nigeria, because everything is now like a community, a global community. It's not the land space and the distance is no longer a barrier. So young people are now more connected and aware of their world than the previous generation, and which is mostly by the active engagement on social media. A research made note that on TikTok, an average user, which is most especially the children, teenagers, and the younger adults, they open their TikTok at least 19 times a day and spend around 75 minutes on the app. Same applies to Instagram and TikTok, which almost double engagement concerning climate action on a daily basis. If we get, like I mentioned, like the foundation also has been doing, we've been getting our posts out there on our pages about climate literacy, about climate actions, about the situation we are in right now. So I'll mention three innovations that just recently were just discovered by scientists. That the Tasmania is now a counter for carbon dioxide. It's a gas, Tasmania. So just discovered recently that Tasmania is now a counter for carbon. Tasmania is now a counter for carbon, and the waxworm saliva is now a counter for plastic. No, I think one of our posts showed that our toothbrush can spend at least 500 years, our plastic toothbrush, if you don't dispose it properly. The plastic bottles spend at least 200 years to disintegrate. Now, just discovered by some scientists that the waxworm saliva can disintegrate plastic. So all of these things, if you don't get the younger generation involved, they will not know about these things. They will not even get involved to think of ideas. So we're not just getting them informed and involved, but also getting them engaged, like getting more innovations, getting more ideas on how we can solve this problem. So that's why the inclusion into the basic educational foundation is very compulsory and very urgent. That even this forum is part of actions we take in getting the words out. Now, the next one is inclusion to basic educational foundation. Like I've mentioned, this is a picture from Sudan, where they are involving and teaching on climate literacy to the children, very little children. And currently, it's just a handful of countries that are involved in climate change education, CCE. So it's just a handful. That's UK, US, Cambodia, the Dominican Republic, China, South Korea. You see, just a handful, just like about 10 of them out of almost 200 countries. So we need to get this word out. We need to advocate. We need to get this word out, get others involved, go out for outreaches, get the younger generations involved. If we get that word out, they also, when they get to know about the climate change, climate crisis, we've seen the statistics of 85% are anxious about the climate crisis, 50% are worried. So when we get this information out, we'll be worried, we'll be anxious to get involved, to think of ideas to counter all of this. So the UN is calling for climate education to become compulsory in school from 2025. The UN has, I think that was last year also, when the climate education of the first ever climate education of happened in Sharm el Sheikh, Egypt. So the UN does the Paris Agreement and the global agreement, that is the SDG, the Sustainable Developmental Goal, the SDG and the Paris Agreement, that climate education should become compulsory in schools from 2025 to equip children to cope with global warming in the future, to equip children to cope with global warming. Like we already know, the effect of climate change continues to be seen and felt around the world. Intense summer heat waves, like in Nigeria, we were not sure of what the weather was 3 weeks ago. Severe flooding, storms, typhoons, hurricane, all from this. And if we see and if we know that the Earth system, it's organized, it's a system. The Earth is a system. That's the atmosphere, the biosphere, the lithosphere, the cryosphere. Everything is a system, the climate system. It's all a system. So if one affects the other will affect the other, the other will affect the other, the other will affect the other. Just like, for an example, the greenhouse gas that we are emitting, hovering over the atmosphere, that you see it has moved to the atmosphere, hovering over the atmosphere of the planet, then because of that, it will heat up the atmosphere. Then the heat will melt the cryosphere, that's the ice, the glaciers, the ice glaciers. Then the ice glaciers will melt, increase the sea level, then cause flooding. Have you seen? From the atmosphere to the cryosphere, that's the ice, and the glaciers, the ice glaciers, down to the biosphere, that's the land affecting. You see, so the earth is a system, and if one is affected, the others will be affected, and we must get the younger generations involved as soon as possible. We must get everyone involved, we must get the word out to get everyone involved. Now, this is an activist by some young adults in the UK to teach the future. Now, these are some current efforts for the inclusion of climate change education in the basic educational foundation. These are some young adults in the UK, and currently in the UK, it's currently included in their curriculum and in their school activities. I think in the secondary school, because Nigeria, like West Africa and the UK, they still kind of have some similarities in their education system, their educational system. They use the secondary school and the primary school, but in North America, high school and middle school. So currently in their secondary school, they have climate education being taught in geography and some sciences, and also in their lower education sector, like the crèche and the primary school. Now, you can see on the top left area, you see only 4% of students are aware of climate change. Only 4%. So we must teach the future, we must get the word out, Extreme heat, wildfire will be normal. We must, in some few decades, if you don't get this word out, if you don't involve younger generations. So let's go out to our social media and inform, let's advocate, let's join the activism, both online and physical, to teach the future of climate change, because this is one of the key foundations in solving this problem of climate crisis. Now, like we already know that the climate change issue is a current issue. It's not an history thing. It's not the history of a country or history. It's a current climate change. And like we see that it affects everyday life. It also affects the future of work, because most especially for schools and education, they are most especially concerned about getting their students to get jobs, which climate change also is affecting those sectors: the fashion industry, the engineering sector, the medical sector, the media sector, the oil and gas, the banking sector. You see some companies like KPMG, like Nestle, they have sustainability officer, like the CSO, Chief Sustainability Officer, ensuring that all of their work ethics and all of their work activities is in line with the climate. So even though we don't teach them at their basic education, they will still go further to meet it. So that they will already be equipped to face the worst effects. They will already be equipped to take actions now. We must get this involved in the basic educational foundation. We must talk about this as often as possible. We must get the word out. Now, this is, like I mentioned, about 10 countries majorly are already involved in climate change. This is China, already involved in their very basic level. This is like the crèche and the primary school. And It's already involved in their curriculum. In Africa, we need to get that involved. We need to get that included in our curriculum. We need to speak out, right to our government, right to the local government, to the federal government, right to all of our government, right to your institution to get this involved in the educational sector. And I think this is still very low in Africa, in a little bit of Middle East and Asia, that's the Kazakhstan, the India area, the Middle East area. I can't remember the countries there, but the Middle East area and South America, they are very low on this. They don't have any idea of what all of this is about. It's just North America, Europe, Australia that is fully involved, and Asia, the advanced Asia area, that's the Northeastern Asia, that's the Tokyo, China, they're the ones fully involved in all of this. So the rest, the third world country, like it's been mentioned, which we need to step up. Third world country need to step up and get the younger generations involved. Now, this is in Nigeria. I don't know the location in Nigeria, but this is in Nigeria where some activists and some organizations, which in few weeks from now will also be doing something like this, be reaching out to schools and getting them informed and involved in climate education. So this is in Nigeria by some organization teaching the children about climate change and climate education. Now, like I've mentioned, in between this meeting, our individual actions towards fighting this climate change, and most especially inclusion of climate change education in the basic educational foundation, is to get the news out, get others involved, share it on your statuses. You're using WhatsApp, share it on your stories, your Instagram page, your TikTok, on your Twitter, on your LinkedIn profile. Share, talk about climate change, get others involved, share the truths and the knowledge that is being circulated by the United Nations, by the UNESCO, by the UNICEF, by FAO. Share those resources out. Advocate with other organizations around you in your country, because I can see we are all over the globe currently on this call. So share with your country, share with your government, reach out if you are in this institution, in school, like university or college, share with your institutions and get other involved, become an activist, both online and physical. And these actions begin with you. Before the government take actions, it all begins with you, it begins with me. Now, I've talked about the inclusion of climate, we've talked about the inclusion of climate change education in the basic educational foundation. Now, before we go on to ask questions, please kindly send a question to the chat box. Before we go on with questions, I'll just mention few individual climate actions for you to take, just beyond this one that is on your screen. I'm going to share some climate actions, individual climate actions with us. So, like the first session we had like a few minutes ago, talked about, I heard Emmanuel talking about using a reusable bag. So beyond that, use a reusable water bottle. Don't just buy plastic bottle. Then when you're done, just throw it in the waste bin. Use a reusable water bottle. Now I'm going to mention about 22 of them. Run the wash only when it's full. That's it. You're using a washing machine, run the wash only when it's full. Use a DIY environmentally friendly cleaner. Use an environmental friendly cleaner. There are a lot of products that are eco-friendly. Your TV, your coffee maker, your microwave, your heater. Use your air conditioning. That is another thing, because this air conditioning produces fluorocarbons, And I'm sure we say we cannot stay in the heat. There are other sustainable ways we can counter the gases air conditioners emit. So install a programmable thermostat, go meatless. I think one of our posts, we made mention that the beans, like beans, peas, pulses, are a very sustainable protein source other than meat. Because of meat, a lot of processes went through the packaging and the production of beef and meat, and yeah, a major emitter of greenhouse gases. The animal farming, which is producing even more than carbon dioxide, even producing more than the food waste methane. The animal farming produces nitric oxide, which is even greater than methane and carbon dioxide. So let's switch to beans or pulses or other plant-based protein. Unplug your electronics when you're not using them, when you're not in use. Reuse, repurpose everyday item. Every item you use, reuse them again. Don't just dispose them immediately you're done. Buy products that last. Don't just go for flashy things. Don't just go for things that will do single-use things. Go for things that will last. Collect rainwater. I think that in Australia, they collect rainwater, then they filter it, then use it back in their house, their household activities. So buy product that lasts. Stop junk mail. Use cloth napkins. Don't just use the tissue paper. Tissue paper is another litter in the environment. Don't just use the tissue paper and just throw it. Use cloth napkin where you can use it, then wash it, then reuse again. Insulate your doors and windows. This is a solution to air conditioning. You can probably use fan. Yes, fan does not emit any gas compared to air conditioning or air conditioner. Also, the one I didn't miss out is plant herbs. At least take care of one plant. Take care of one plant in your backyard. If you don't have a garden, just take care of one plant. Water it daily. Switch to LED bulbs. Don't use the old bulbs. I'm sure LED bulbs are now everywhere. Switch to LED bulbs. Switch to a bidet toilet. Shop for Energy Star appliances. Quit smoking, because when you smoke, it's emitting gas. Quit smoking. You see, when we take all of these climate actions, it's making our life better, more, almost on every level. Our health, our transportation, our work, our fashion. When we take climate action, it's the results is on every aspect of our life. Quit smoking. Reduce your commute. That's if you have your car. Electric car are most expensive. You can carpool just to reduce the fewer vehicles on the road. Join up with friends in a car or take public transport. That's where there is electric cars and electric buses and street cars, that's the tram. So these are just few. There are a lot of climate actions, individual actions you can take. So please, after this forum, does not end here. Please go out, get the word out, get others involved, reach out to authorities to take this into policies and take it into actions. And this begins with you. Lastly, shop secondhand. Shop secondhand, please. Yeah. And eliminate your food waste also. Don't waste food. Eat what you can eat. Take portions you can eat and eat freeze leftovers. Leftovers, ensure you freeze them. Measure every of your actions, ensure they are sustainable. Every of your actions, ensure they are sustainable. All right, thank you very much, everyone. I guess this is ending. I hope we've learned a lot from this forum. The forum still continues. 8:45, we'll continue with the post-session, the post-event, where we'll have discussions together. So don't go. By 8:45, that's according to Central Eastern Time. and West African time. Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, Berlin, Germany, Stockholm. According to the Central Eastern Time, it's by 8:45, we'll be back here. Or if you're in the North America, I guess it's around 2 p.m., 3 p.m. So by 3:45 or 2:45, we'll be back here. All right. Do you have any question? Kindly send your question now so it will be documented when we come back in 5 minutes' time to be discussed about. Also, the link will be shared by the Secretariat. You see it in the chat box. All that. Also, if you want to get involved in the May Foundation, if you want to volunteer, if you want to partner, become a global ambassador, kindly visit our Instagram page at the May Foundation. You see the link tree. All right, can you kindly ask a question? We have like 2 minutes more. Someone raising up, please. Just type it now. Can you kindly ask questions? All right. We'll be going off now. We'll be back in 5 minutes so we can gather up all of our questions. And if you want to partner with us, to be sent across. All right. Let's kindly have this break. We meet in 5 minutes. Meet in 5 minutes.